And this is Nijaah Howard. I'm the host of Let's Talk Over T.E.A.S. And today we are a talk show for single parents, training, educational advocacy, and support. However, we've been taking detours this last couple of weeks because we really want to focus on just the new climate of what's going on with, COVID-19, George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, defunding the police, men coping with depression, families at home. What does that look like right now today for everyone involved? So today we have a special guest. His name is Marc Thompson. He's an excellent student and youth advocate. He helps with job readiness, with resumes and computer information, and talks to young people across Queens, Long Island, and throughout New York City. Wonderful guy, great connector, works for the centers, different centers in Brooklyn. He's just an amazing guy. So guys, I need you guys to give him a warm welcome. Mr. Marc Thompson, welcome to Let's Talk Over T.E.A.S.
Yes, thank you so much. How are you?
Excellent. I'm very happy that you're here. You're a wonderful guy. Just tell me and tell everyone, and first of all, before we even get started, what tea are you drinking today?
This is a regular ginger tea.
Oh, that's my favorite. Let me see what kind of cup you got going on there. Excellent, excellent. Let's talk over teas. Excellent. So today I have my wild berry zinger. I'm keeping it safe today.
Nice.
But my ginger is always the one that's one of my go-tos is the hot ginger. It just feels so good going down.
I totally understand. I drink it every day.
Absolutely. It's excellent for the health. So before we chime in, I just want to know, tell me a little bit and tell the audience a little bit about you, and a little bit more in depth, the great things that you're doing and just who you are.
I'm Marc Thompson. I've been working in education for like 16, 17 years, really helping empower our students with job opportunities, internships, putting together career fairs, helping them connect with large organizations like Microsoft, Indeed, hospitals, and a host of like nonprofits throughout the city. Really putting them in position where they can do well and increase like their confidence level.
Wonderful. Marc, I've known you for some years now, and you've always been so consistent and just an amazing community advocate, community leader, always speaking up when it's necessary for the youth, just an innovator, a creator, and a visionary. So I'm so glad and I'm so honored that you're even a part of this show today. I want to chime in really quickly because I want to talk about this session, just talking about African-American men in depression. Let's just talk a little bit about, how have you been able to cope with COVID-19 and all that's been going on so far?
Great question. Like, in our family, we lost 4 members to COVID-19. And, me being an associate minister, I had to officiate 4 funeral services for family members. So I totally understand. But one thing is to exercising, making sure that you eat the right foods, make sure you're connecting to your community, which has served as a support system to myself, and reading things that keep your mind positive. Also like having a prayer life that has helped tremendously to keep me in the right place and dodge like depression or grief in the midst of like the storm that we've been dealing with.
Absolutely, absolutely. Some of the signs that we notice with depression, and men always tend to think that depression is something that is, it reduces your masculinity, or, it's not for you. There's a fear there of even going to clinicians. And a lot of people think that it's because of a stigma. But in reality, a lot of men refuse to go to seek out help because of the fact that they're afraid that the clinicians may not be able to really understand the disenfranchisement of the Black people. So, have you yourself ever gone to therapy or counseling to help cope with some of the issues that you've dealt with? And I'm sorry for your losses.
Yeah, thank you so much. Absolutely. Like as a freshman in college, I went to Fordham University and went to counseling. I was in counseling for maybe 15 weeks. And I have to tell you, it was a healthy process. I went every Friday. Like you said, it was a stigma there where people said, if you go see a counselor, you must be crazy. But I have to tell you, that opportunity lightened my load. It actually put me in a position to face so many things that I've encountered throughout life. It was a healthy process. So I recommend it to anyone who feel like they need professional help. And it also helps too when you do it early in relationships with your family, your children, your wife, other relationships. It was just a benefit to me in tremendous ways that I see now looking back. I'm happy that I did it.
Excellent. So you use a lot of coping skills. I know sometimes when we are going through depression, which is a normal mood for everyone of all ages, all cultures, all backgrounds, we typically go through certain things where we have, we become isolated. Maybe our eating habits have changed, or who we hang out with changes, or for men, I know they feel a lot of anger. Their anger begins to escalate from mild irritation to fury and rage, and they lose concentration and memory and being able to focus. They might have headaches or back pains. When you was going through all these different deaths in your family, did you experience anything different about yourself, whether it was physically or cognitively or behaviorally or even emotionally? Did you experience anything different?
Great question. Like, absolutely. There were certain periods of grief. I would say for at least a week and a half to 2 weeks, I wasn't really eating like I normally did. I wasn't really participating in things that I normally did, activities. I was sleeping a lot in the midst of, going through that. Lost a little weight, I would definitely say. But then, I started saying, wow, my emotional wellness is so vitally important, and self-care. So I started thinking that through. Then I started doing a self-analysis of myself. And I said, hey, my focus is a little off. I'm not as quick and sharp as I normally am. That's when I realized, hey, that the losing 4 family members was definitely taking effect. And in the midst of like a Sunday school session we were having on a Sunday, I verbalized it. It wasn't like my goal to do that, but I just communicated it to the group. Then it made me say, hey, I have to take some action steps to deal with it. That's when I went jogging. That's when I put like 3 glasses of water on my desk to make sure that I was drinking a lot of water, because I had become dehydrated. My lips were really dry. My first funeral, I would say my lips were like parched. So I was like, man, I'm not drinking enough water. And that's when things started changing. Exercising, making sure I was eating 3 meals per day, making sure I was drinking 3 bottles of water per day, and doing fun things that I normally do to keep me happy. And communicating with other people to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Then my support system started calling me, saying, hey, how are things going? I was like, things are coming along great, things are improving. That's when I started becoming stronger. But it made me aware of the community and what people in the community may be going through as well. Not only did I lose family members, friends at church passed away. Other friends were calling me, telling me they lost loved ones. COVID-19 really impacted the Black community in a profound way, as you already know.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. It's amazing that you said that, it took you like a week and a half to almost 2 weeks, because that is the standard time when you begin to get diagnosed for having some form of depression.
Okay.
It's so important that, you start to monitor your mind and how you're thinking. And I love how you said, I started to realize, I just spoke it and I realized, oh my God, I have to make a difference here. And
Yeah.
you changed your whole attitude and lifestyle. You started to add water to your diet. You started to go to support groups. You started to, go jogging. Like those things are so critical when you start to realize that there's a decline in your behavior, a decline in the way that you're thinking. And part of, statistically speaking, a lot of how we move is based on how we think.
Yes.
And if we can begin to form words and say certain things, part of owning it is identifying it, naming it, calling it, and then saying, I have to let you go. I
Yes.
cannot let you stay here. So you made a quick pivot when you realized I'm declining here,
Yes.
right? So I definitely want to encourage those who are watching that right now we're talking to Mr. Marc Thompson, many years of educator all throughout New York City. Just a guy informing us today on how he was able to cope with depression during the COVID-19 and the status that we're in at this current moment. So I know some of the times, it's so important that we do get, diagnosed. I don't want, people to think, oh, I'm afraid to go to the doctor. Have you ever been, and I know sometimes guys have a way of not wanting to see the doctor. When was the last time you went to the doctor, Marc? And do you recommend that guys go to the doctor just in case there is something going on?
I actually go to get a checkup like every 6 months to a year. I have health insurance, so that's not an excuse. And I think one of the biggest challenges for us as African American men, we don't get ourselves checked regularly. So, a lot of times we may have different cancers, let's say, that we can beat, or sicknesses that we can beat if we get regular checkups annually, like every 6 months, every year, to make sure everything is going okay with your body. Because I think when you don't, so many different things can impact you. You may not even be aware of that. So, and I think in my household, my mom, my wife, my two daughters, they make sure that I get my regular checkups. And I'm a part of like a lot of organizations where we really promote that men, Black men, whomever, gets regular checkups to make sure everything is okay. So that's something I do normally. And
Absolutely.
in regards to like the depression, I want to say it's okay to become a little paralyzed by depression, but it's a problem when you sit there and let the situation get worse. Like I told you, my situation was a week, maybe 2 weeks, but I didn't sit there and allow it to get worse. And I think the longer we let the depression fester, the more difficult it becomes to deal with. Once you reach that point when maybe you may not wash up, or maybe you may not feel so motivated to change your clothes or get a haircut or something like that, those are signals that something is wrong. I didn't change my clothes one day. I wasn't really motivated to wash one day. And that's not me. I take a shower like every day. So that's when I say, hey, something is wrong. So, and just having that community to say, hey, what's going on with you? You didn't change today. Like I think my daughter said that. I was like, what you mean? So that awareness and having that community around you to make you aware of things like that, I think that serves a tremendous purpose to you. So yeah, you're human. We're
Absolutely.
human. None of us are perfect. And I think as
That's right.
men, sometimes we think we have to have all the answers. We think we have to be super strong. We don't. We're human, just like anybody else. And I think being vulnerable and being open and honest, that's when you can really grow and evolve and become, who God wants us to be. In our homes, in our community, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm a little depressed right now. Like me, I'm an avid basketball lover, and I've encountered so many NBA players who went public. Love on the Cleveland Cavaliers, who went public and shared that he was dealing with depression. One of the Olympians, Michael, he went public and shared that he was dealing with depression. So it's okay. It's a normal process.
Absolutely. A little tea to get us going.
Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely. Excellent information. One of the things is, you know, if you do notice yourself declining, and again, you watch how you're thinking, watch how you're feeling, and like you said, are you changing your clothes?
Yes.
Are you getting a little bit too irritable with people? Or, is your home getting disheveled? Are you losing memory and concentration? Are you isolating yourself from individuals and not wanting to do much that you used to do before? Losing interest in things that used to interest you before?
Yes.
If you find yourself declining, it's so important to go to your medical doctor and get a physical examination. And
Yes.
from there, it's also very important, you know, they may even do a lab testing and seeing if there's anything with your thyroids, or seeing a mental health professional, and having medication prescribed from a psychiatrist. There's so many different avenues that are out there to help our young men and our men to really be able to take control of their depression and their emotions when they're feeling a certain kind of way. I do
Totally
want to
agree.
throw out there really quickly, Mark. I just want to throw out there really quickly. There is a suicidal hotline. If you are feeling that way, the number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. And there's also Vibrant Emotional Health, which is a New York City-based 24-hour therapy program that was initiated by Thrive New York City. Their number is 1-888-692-9355. Again, that's 1-888-692-9355. It's so important that we really take control of our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health, our spiritual health, just really financial health.
Yes.
Sometimes men even have sexual problems,
Yes.
and issues in that department, that hinders their ability to move forward. So I heard you say earlier how you was really able to just combat, right away, you start using coping skills to help you manage your depression and dealing with 4 deaths during the
Yes.
COVID-19. How have you been able to still maintain your ability to be an outstanding husband and a wonderful father? Talk about your relationships and how you've been able to maintain that in the process of coping with everything else.
Um, I would say what really helped me a lot tremendously was, writing poetry, listening to music, um, making sure I found time to sit down and watch a movie with my family, eat dinner together. Because I think when you start dealing with depression, like you said, things break down. Your mental, your emotional, your sexual. And I think one of the key things that I realized was really impacting me, I wasn't eating food. So when you're not eating food, you don't have the energy to move. You don't have the energy to think clearly. You don't have the energy and the drive to perform in the bedroom. So that's one of the key things, to make sure we're eating food, make sure we're drinking enough water, making sure you're reading something that will make your mind shift in a positive way. Because I think when we're not doing those different things, your mind is going to shift in a negative path. And that's when everything it spirals downward. You're not going to want to
Absolutely.
not going to be able to perform in the bedroom. You're not going to want to
Right.
watch television or be around your kids. Sometimes when you reach that low point, you go in your room and you put your head under a pillow and you just stay there, or you sleep a lot. That's a very important signal that something is wrong when you're sleeping a lot. So just having that community around me, like my family members, friends, calling me to check up on me to make sure I was good, people sending me text messages, the community was important. And that helped me a lot. And, remembering like where you were, like my productivity at work over the years has been very good. Like if you look at my LinkedIn profile, a high performer, you know, productivity is not a problem. But during those particular weeks, it was hard to produce anything. Like, new jobs, new internships, making a phone call, like my motivation level was so low. It was even hard to speak. And that's something that's not a problem that I've ever had. So paying close attention to those signals and making a goal and saying, hey, I can beat this, and becoming resilient. And I think all of us are resilient, but it's those particular dark periods that when we have to really tap into our resiliency and remember like where we were and say, hey, I'm in a bad place now, but I have to work hard to get back to that healthy place. And just becoming conscious of where you are and where you want to be and what it's going to take to get there. And, you know, I wasn't by myself. And sometimes as men, we think we have to do everything by ourselves. And you know what? We have to really rely on our women. Sometimes we don't want to tell our women that we're weak and we're vulnerable. And I think that's a problem. So when we're in those dark places, and, you know, right now, if you look at it, the unemployment rate for Blacks is at like 16.7%. And that leads me to believe that a lot of Black men who lead families, they're a little sad right now because they're not in a financial position, perhaps, let's say, to take care of the family the way they normally were. And maybe the wife is working. And I've encountered cases during this pandemic where the husband and the wife lost their job, which is going to create additional stress. But I think with the two communicating with each other, putting together strategies and plans to cope in the midst of this pandemic, this time where we're struggling from a health perspective, we're struggling from a financial perspective, but communicating with each other and saying, hey, we're in this thing together, and work towards specific goals. Like maybe we can't go shopping, or maybe we can't go out and do things like we normally do. We have to cut back, you know, on certain things, but make sure that you are working together with your partner to alleviate stress that causes the depression. And I think as long as you're communicating with each other, that is the key to your success during the dark times. Don't run, draw it closer together. And I think that's what really helped me out of that dark place quick, communicating and sharing what I was going through. So,
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent. That is so key. And I love how you said, don't run, get
Yes.
closer to it. And, you know, it's something because, you know, people who do have depression, they tend to have signs of anxiety. Not necessarily anxiety. People who have anxiety do not necessarily have to have depression. But if you are depressed, sometimes you may have signs of anxiety, which is, you know, you start having your, you know, your increased heart rate. Maybe you're starting to sweat. If you find yourself, and they call it fight or flight.
Yes.
Right. So
Exactly.
you stay and you deal with the situation at hand, or you run away. And so I love how you said, you know, stay and handle it together with your spouse. You know, you're in it together. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to not speak. You know, you're in this together to win, you
Exactly.
know, and in order to come out on top, you got to go take care of your health, your mental health, you know.
Absolutely.
And like you said, reduce the stress to reduce the depression. So any last words of encouragement that you want to share to the audience out there, and especially the men who are going to be watching you?
I would just definitely say, like, it's vitally important to, you know, stay focused, to be goal oriented every day, to stay connected to a community. I mean, that could be a mosque, that could be a church, that could be a father initiative program. Stay connected with the community. I think those particular things keep us really strong as Black men in this particular society, where you can communicate, you can learn and become wiser. I mean, our pastor at First Calvary Baptist Church, Reverend Earl Jones Sr., I mean, I'm so thankful to have him as a pastor. You know, his door's always open. You can call him if you're going through any different things. And the men's group within our church, we communicate with each other regularly and being able to reach out to them as well. So stay connected to some type of community that can keep you strong and hold you accountable, and you can be vulnerable with. And that has been like saving grace for myself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Marc, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on Let's Talk Over Teas today. You
Thank
are
you
a wealth of
for having me.
information, just wonderful guy. Really appreciate him. Just again, when we strengthen our boys and men, we stabilize our girls and women. It's so important that we strengthen our men so we can stabilize our women and our families in a whole. So thank you so much for being
No, thank you
on.
for having me on your show.
Very welcome, very welcome. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Have a good day.